Oh, happy Wednesday, everybody. New comic book day.
Yeah, not for me, man.
Celebrate.
Terminator got friggin' delayed, and so my issue of Terminator will not be in comic shops in the United States today. Should have been, but it's not.
It's fun. Do you know when is it like a next Wednesday type thing or not? We don't know.
It absolutely should be.
Okay.
But according to League of Comic Geeks, the website that I use for my like comic news and stuff,
yeah,
they're looking at the 20th is when the second issue of Terminator is coming out.
Okay.
That's my guess. I think like, you know, honestly, it should be available on digital. Like if it's available on digital, it's available now.
Yeah.
And if it's not, it will be available on the 20th at the very latest. But what my advice to folks is contact your local comic book store. They're probably going to say the same thing that at least 10 different comic book stores yesterday told me, which is, I don't know.
Yeah, dude, it's tough. I feel bad for the comic store crowd because it's like we get what they send us, and sometimes they don't send us. So
yeah,
who's to say? Who knows? No. Looks like I'm frozen. That's a fun development.
Well,
there we go. You know. You try sometimes because people that watch live know sometimes there's this little green flicker on my thing. So I tried something to fix it and then that froze up. So cool. Technology is perfect. We love it. All right.
Best laid plans, man.
But Terminator, that relates to Terminator. Technology is perfect. No notes.
Naturally. Yes. Naturally. Absolutely.
I listened to because I was listening to podcasts and one of our podcasts popped in the opening to Mutant Academy. This is my segue to if you want to listen to Sal and I's other show, Mutant Academy, you can do that over patreon.com/stupid-answers. And at the beginning of Mutant Academy episodes, I have little clips from the episode, and this one was from that Master Mold clip where Trask or whoever runs Master
Whichever
Mold,
one of them,
one of those guys.
It's Trask,
It's Trask, yeah. He's like, but you were supposed to save humanity from mutants, and Master Mold was like, excuse me, mutants are humans, and it just cemented in me how much I love that scene because it's one of the few times that engages with the reality of technology, which is because we always treat it like the Terminators are perfect. They're doing something awful, but they're doing what they're designed to do. Everything works the way it's supposed to.
Yeah.
And I love anytime Silicon Valley, that show on Max, now Max was HBO, did this really well too. Of like, but actually, a lot of times the real problem with technology is that it doesn't work. And so this was one of those times where it's like, you screwed up, dude. You programmed it wrong.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah.
I like that. That's a funny idea. The idea that like technology, like one of the guarantees of technology is that it will fail.
Yeah.
And we never see that in like the Matrix or Terminator or
like you watch Star Trek Next Generation. It's like Data's issue is not that there's anything wrong with his programming ever.
No.
It's that he can't get feelings. It's like, no, that's not.
Yeah.
You know,
well, and like apparently everyone like gets the equivalent of like a PhD when really all they need to do is what essentially their skills are is good chat GPT Googling.
They're
like, computer, tell me about like this, and this. And then the computer's like, I don't know about that. And they're like, how could you not know about that? They get annoyed at the computer. And I'm like, maybe your Google skills just suck.
Yeah, maybe they suck. Like, I just want one where like your evil robot walks in and they're like, why do you keep making the jerk off motion?
I don't know.
It's just a bug. I don't know, man. That's just what I'm doing today. Anyway, technology is perfect. Terminator 2 coming out soon. Too soon. It's coming out soon.
Terminator issue 2 from Dynamite. I wrote the backup. Check it
out. Mutant Academy on patreon.com/onlystupid-answers. But what is this show? This show is Krypton Academy over on my personal channel, DJ Talks Trash. This is where Sal and I talk about Superman. If you missed it, last month we talked about Superman the movie, which came out in 1978. This month we're talking about Superman 2, which came out in 1980. If you would like me to read your comment in the chat on the show, go to the super chat, please, and thank you. Like the evil mathematician, redundant, if I may editorialize a little, redundant. Wow, I thought I saw this in theaters. I guess I was 3. Don't date yourself, dude. Don't date yourself. But So we're talking about this month. We're talking about Superman 2. This is a continuation of the Christopher Reeve Superman saga. This was directed by Richard Lester, pitching in after Richard Donner. We're going to get into that.
Oh yeah.
The synopsis is Superman agrees to sacrifice his powers to start a relationship with Lois Lane, unaware that the 3 Kryptonian criminals, that's a hilarious part of the movie, unaware
that something he could never have counted on occurred.
3 Kryptonian criminals he inadvertently released are conquering the Earth. On Rotten Tomatoes, it has an 83% and an audience score of 76%.
Yeah.
Sal, are you ready for my blazing hot take on Superman 2, which I have not seen since I was a kid, apparently?
Right? Yeah, same. Yes, I'm ready. I'm so ready.
Spoilers, sorry, everybody, jumping ahead, but this movie, it's not that good.
No, it's not. It is not that good. It is kind of dumb.
Yeah.
But also it is earnest. There's a lot of things that I do think really work. There's also, of course, 2 completely different creative voices that are just screaming at each other while the movie's happening.
This is,
and I don't mean that like
Star Wars sequel trilogy in one movie.
Yes. Yeah. It's like, because I actually, apropos of that point specifically, I was actually looking at a thing yesterday or the day before about Star Wars, the original trilogy.
Yeah.
And about how apparently critics did not every critic, a lot of critics, particularly like well-respected critics, did not like Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Because as far as they were concerned, the reason they liked Star Wars A New Hope was because it was stupid.
Yeah.
Like they were like, this is exactly the kind of camp and non-serious storytelling that we crave in this like weird period of like deeply serious cinema that we're in.
Yeah.
And it harkens back to this time. And all the things people like about Star Wars, they were like, I like that. Yeah. But like there's an undercurrent of the reason why I like Star Wars is because it doesn't take itself seriously. And then Empire Strikes Back is like, but it is, I mean, like, but they do. Like the characters in this universe like live and die, and they do care about what happens to themselves. And critics were like, what?
Yeah.
And Superman 2 is kind of like both those ideas at the same time. Return of the Jedi is basically George Lucas going, no, it's just stupid fun.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like that people gave this second movie that I had less influence over credit and any accolades. So no.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like, Superman 2 has these moments of like deep seriousness and also roller skating guys getting blown away and like
for like 20 minutes,
like too long.
It's a long sequence.
Yeah,
it's interesting. So normally, I try to do the behind the scenes later or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think it's important going in for people who may not be familiar. So originally, like we discussed last time with Richard Donner's Superman the movie, they were filming, and this feels like way ahead of its time. They were filming both Superman 1 and 2 back to back. And it's as the budget ballooned and tensions between Donner and the Salkinds, who were the producers, grew. It was decided like, well, let's just get 1 out the gate and then we'll figure out 2, which is like, yeah, man. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I can't
unless you're the Lord of the Rings trilogy, that's how you should do things.
Right. And you're not getting like a massive tax credit because you're shooting it in like some foreign land that most people on the earth can't point to on a map at that point.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings, I get how they managed to sneak 3 movies in under the radar, but like
kind of with this, it's like it is a minor miracle that they did Lord of the Rings, but that's not the show we're doing here. We're talking about Superman. So, and there was a lot of issues that some of them might come out, like Marlon. There was issues with Marlon Brando. There's a reason none of his footage is used in this movie because he wanted money. He wanted money, and the Salkinds sound like a piece of work, if I'm being honest. Going through the behind the scenes,
they sound really annoying to work with, and I understand why Donner eventually just left.
Yeah. So eventually, they decided to move forward without Donner. Richard Lester was kind of brought in initially as a peace broker between the Salkinds and Donner, and he eventually just became the director of 2.
Yep.
So here's and they redid the script. So the new script features newly conceived scenes such as a new opening involving Superman thwarting a nuclear terrorist in Eiffel Tower, Clark rescuing Lois at Niagara Falls, and a new ending which Clark causes Lois to forget his secret identity through a hypnotic kiss. So basically, everything that doesn't work about this movie is from this rewrite.
Yeah. This movie sure likes to make up powers for Superman. There's at least 2 powers in this movie where I'm like, what are you doing?
Stuff that I guess because, the Superman canon in my brain, I just excised from this movie. I'm like, that could be.
Yeah, well, and the cultural accolades this movie has. People are like, the greatest superhero movie on Earth may be Superman 2. And I'm like, reason why superhero movies have this really annoying trope where the hero needs to lose their powers is because of this movie.
Dude, to that point, obviously, Spider-Man, having watched this, and sorry, gang, we're going to get through the synopsis. We're kind of jumping ahead a little bit. But obviously, Spider-Man 2 and heavily indebted in this movie. Way better, though, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, no.
Way better.
I honestly, I'm willing to say, like, Spider-Man 1 and 2 are essentially the Superman 1 and 2 equivalences of their generation.
Yeah.
And do it better.
Yeah, and that might just because when you say of their generation, our generation. Yeah, you know what I mean? And so you and I are more sympathetic to it, but I agree. Agree.
But I also existed in a time before Spider-Man Raimi. So for me, I'm like, I remember when all I had was Superman until Batman came. And even then, I only got like 1.5 good Batman movies because Batman Returns for a child is fucking weird.
Dude, yeah, we've mentioned this on the show before. When they, they decided like Batman Returns was too scary for kids, so we're going to do Batman Forever. I was one of the kids they were thinking of. Batman Returns freaked me out as a kid, and I loved Batman Forever.
That's funny because it freaked me out as a kid, but I also hated Batman Forever. When I watched it, I'm like, what are you doing? Why is this so goofy and weird and not connected to anything?
Yeah, I remember. We've talked about it. I have that whole like Mandela effect myself with the nose biting scene in Batman Returns because
I thought it was much more graphic.
Yeah, I remember him just biting the dude's nose entirely off, and then you see it and you're like, whoa, that was it.
I remember blood shooting out of it, like in a really expressive, like kind of Django Unchained kind of way.
Yeah. Nope. So Lester was not sympathetic to Donner's filmmaking style. Quote, Donner was emphasizing a kind of grandiose myth. There's this kind of David Leanish attempt in several sequences, an enormous scale. There was a type of epic quality, which isn't in my nature. So my work really didn't embrace that. That's not me.
That's
shows his vision of it. I'm more quirky, and I play around with slightly more unexpected silliness. And it's like, so what you're saying is you were the wrong guy. You were the wrong guy.
Yeah, and also that's so funny because you basically just described Raimi's style for Spider-Man, the franchise, where it's epic and also quirky.
Yeah.
Where there's this like orchestral score where Spider-Man, this guy who has powers that could save maybe one person, are ascribed to being the, like, humanity's savior in those movies. Like, he's constantly swinging in front of the American flag, being like, I represent the American spirit. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
He's a poor kid from Queens. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
But
also we get these grand moments, but also we get a moment where like a woman is on the phone for entirely too long because she thinks she hears something outside of the apartment window, and then it turns out it's Doc Ock like climbing the side of the wall. Like 20 minutes, this sequence where she's like, I wonder what it is. And then she screams 3 independent times into the camera. Like, that's Raimi just going like, you can't get rid of me.
Yep. I'm your guy. So the last thing I wanted to know before we get into it proper is composer John Williams was originally slated to score Superman 2, whereby he was given a screening with Ilya Salkind and Richard Lester. When Salkind left the projection room, Williams and Lester fell into an argument. When Salkind returned, Williams told him that he, quote, could not get along with this man. To take his place, Richard Lester's frequent composer Ken Thorne was selected to score the sequel. And to me, that's like a perfect encapsulation of fumbling the ball, because like you had
John
could you have possibly gotten an argument? It's John Williams. You say yes.
Yeah, just agree with him until like Daddy comes back into the room.
Yeah, just say also, yes.
I gotta say that also kind of connects with the Raimi stuff, because Danny Elfman had an infamous falling out at the 0 hour, not with Spider-Man 2, but rather with I think it was in Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, I think it was because there's one of the issues I remember, because I think I was like 14 or 15 when Super Spider-Man 1 came out, which means I was the exact perfect age for that movie. Like all his teen angst, I was like, just poured into me. Like, that's my life, clearly. And I watched Spider-Man 1 like 15 times in theaters. Like, it was an insane amount. Like it was too much. And so there was this unfair expectation I had for Spider-Man 2. And so when they cut to, there's a few times in that movie where they cut to like a song, like a pop song or whatever.
Oh yeah.
The score
Train shows up in that movie, not like physically, but like
what are we doing? Why not the score? And then you hear about the kind of the disagreement with Danny Elfman.
Yeah,
and I'll say this. That's totally. That's not great. Danny Elfman's not John Williams. Danny Elfman is close, but he's not John Williams.
That's true. I mean, although Elfman did the Batman score, like he is the superhero. Like he would be the superhero equivalent of John Williams if John Williams didn't also do the Superman score.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just one of those. John Williams is also Indiana Jones and Jurassic Park and Harry Potter and whatever. And Danny Elfman has all those too. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
Danny Elfman's possibly one of our great is not possibly
one of the best.
He's one of the best composers in history. He's still getting those Simpsons paychecks. He's doing great.
Yeah.
John Williams is kind of like sainthood of like he's John Williams, man. Like
he has reached like the papacy. Yeah,
but I will tell you to your point. I guess I feel this less with Spider-Man, but if you were like if Danny Elfman was supposed to do the score for Batman Forever, and then we got in a fight and he didn't do it. I'm like, well, he did the two.
He did the two. Like everyone knows what this movie's supposed to sound like.
He did that. Part of the reason, there's so many reasons we love Batman the Animated Series, but a significant part of the heavy lifting is that opening sequence with the Danny Elfman score.
It's true, which is also funny because we also like have Shirley Walker who was crushing it. Yep. But we also we were roped in thanks to the Elfman score. That score got you in, and then you were just like, but yeah. And I'll blast him a little bit. I think I like the Shirley Walker theme that came to the later seasons of Batman better than the Elfman score. Ooh. I like the Batman the Animated Series intro. It's perfection. Yeah. Now put that aside. If I want to listen to one score over the other one, I like the New Adventures of Batman and Robin score by Shirley Walker. The one where it just goes. Yeah, the one with it has the standard Batman animated series theme. The da, 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 that's weaved into the intro. So great. And so I challenge folks to listen to that again. New Adventures of Batman and Robin. Listen to that theme. It's freaking epic.
I should because to me that's so tied to the visual of like montage from the show. Whereas the second I hear the original notes, I'm like, pan up to the blimp, Warner Brothers logo, blimp, pan down. You know what I mean? Like the whole thing.
No, that's a film. That's cinema. What you just got right there. Yeah. I don't like the use of clips from the show.
Yeah,
but just the music is king.
That was another thing of like with Superman the animated series because that's the more the direction they went. And I'm like, you couldn't have given me a little animated short film for your opening sequence.
I know.
The John Williams score.
They didn't even do that. They didn't even start with one. Like it was immediately they were like, no, we're just gonna go with with a clip show. And I'm like, you don't even have enough episodes to clip two.
This is a hit show, but we need to save some money. Okay, we need to save some money.
Yeah.
So speaking of saving some money, I think it's time to get into Superman 2.
The theatrical cut.
So that's another thing we should clarify. Sal and I did not watch the Richard Donner cut. It is not even really a complete cut of the movie.
There's like screen tests used as scenes in this movie, and I'm like,
So this is the original theatrical cut. I do have, maybe if we have time later, I'll go through some of the changes. But if you're watching it through modern eyes, they should be pretty apparent almost immediately. So we open, I don't know about you, Sal, but when the movie opened, I'm like, hold on, didn't we just do this for the first Superman? Like the
I know. I'm like, oh no, like, right? Did I turn on the right one? Like, oh my God, we're back in Krypton.
And then if that wasn't enough, we have this almost like it's it reminded me of like a Muppets bit where like the three Kryptonians walk in on clearly a green screen and Zod like snaps a crystal and then like it's not spotlights like a police helicopter, but that's what it feels like. Hey, we got you. And it's like, what is going on?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, no, neither do they. Like
times, it's tough because I like the instinct here. Yeah, you start with, here's Superman. You have him face off with, this is a mistake we're going to revisit with Man of Steel.
Yeah.
You start with Superman and you establish how powerful Superman is. so that when the evil Kryptonians show up, you're like,
oh no,
what are we? Yeah, oh no,
Yeah.
we saw this guy rewound time in the last movie.
Right. If these guys figure that out, we're toast.
We're screwed. And
thank God they don't.
Thank God they don't. And it's funny too. I think modern audiences might not appreciate this, but it's it's hard to say when people are coming in to this stuff. But I remember for a long time, it's crazy how iconic Zod is as a Superman enemy because of this movie, and how until recently almost never utilized.
Yeah, it's rare to use him, and it's weird. Well, Zod has a complicated history, and I remember as a kid, like, Zod is the Superman 2 villain.
Yeah.
And in the comics, he's the one that Superman killed. Superman killed Zod in even the pre-crisis or in the post-crisis continuity.
Yeah.
That's why he becomes Crime Buster or whatever. But he also feels horrible about it. It's funny because, like, people really gave Superman a pass for killing Zod in the comics, but not in that movie.
Not in that movie.
But
it might have something to do with the tone of the movie, but yeah.
But for me, cracking Zod's neck at the end of Man of Steel was just the straw that broke the camel's back for me. It wasn't. I wasn't like Mark Waid, where I'm like, that was it. Like, I was just like, when they were shooting the dubstep machine, I was just like, I think I might be checked out. Like,
yeah, it's one of those. We're getting ahead of ourselves, but it is one of those, like, when Pa Kent goes, and when you, like, as the movie's going on, you're like, I really want to like this. And then that happened. You're like, no, I'm not going to like this movie.
I don't like anything that's happening. And but that's another movie. But this one, I'm also kind of like, well, do I like any Superman movies?
Well, that's the thing. Okay, so this is this is a case where two truths can exist simultaneously.
Yeah.
This movie, in my opinion, is not very good. Yeah. That said, this might be the second best Superman movie we're going to watch.
Yeah. I do, and I don't want to give Bryan Singer any credit, but I did like Superman Returns, but it has, like, every single Superman movie has all these provisions, has all these caveats, where I'm like, boy, this would be great if they didn't do this, this, and this. Yeah. And it's like, it's always four things. Like, it's not one thing. It's not like, oh man, they really screwed up with so-and-so, but otherwise it's great. Like, no, it's 4 or 5 things where I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
And Superman Returns is one of those problems where I'm like, I love Routh, I love the set design, I love Perry, all this stuff, and then it's like, but this really are weird, and I don't like it, and and it only gets worse with time.
Yep. On so many levels, but again, another movie for another time.
Exactly. But Superman 2, it's well, and the problem is, it's like, it's made by two completely different people and one of them, like, who came in after the fact, clearly has, like, something to prove and an axe to grind, even though he's friends with Donner. Like, he's clearly like, I'm going to show you that, like, your grandiose concept doesn't necessarily work with this vision. And I'm like, but this is also the movie you made.
Yeah. You remember
it's in it.
Remember that beloved movie you did where you really captured the grandiose American myth of one of our pop culture icons?
Yeah.
Do you not realize, actually, this is stupid? Let me show you how stupid it is.
I love when that happens. I love when creators come in and do that.
Oh, dude. Sorry, gang, for the tangents. All right. But this is the show you signed up for. And this is where Sal and I get to catch up. The new Thunderbolts trailer. I'm excited for the movie because anything that doesn't have the stink of the multiverse on it, I am looking forward to.
Yeah, I don't think they're even going to mention the multiverse in the Thunderbolts movie.
And I'm frustrated that it's becoming clearer and clearer that asterisk means it's a Dark Avengers. I think that's stupid, personally.
I love it. I'm fine with it. I think that, like, they are riding high from that moment that nobody really gave them any credit for, and I don't think that's bad. I'm just kind of like, who cares? But when Falcon and the Winter Soldier changed the title at the end of the movie to Captain America and the Winter Soldier, and they expected people to cheer, but it was a show, so there was no audience to applaud. I think that they're going to do that same moment in Thunderbolts, and people are going to be like, what? And it's like, great, they can be the Dark Avengers while Secret Wars is destroying the planet. Like, it's the worst possible time.
Yeah, and that would hit better if Young Avengers was on the slate. The other characters they're introducing are like the West Coast event. Like, so let's do you can call them New Avengers, but let's do a West Coast Avengers movie. Like, whatever. Anyway,
right.
But they couldn't help themselves. And any longtime listeners will know I don't
Yes.
like this shit. They're like, I think it's like what's his face from Stranger Things, like, we're the Thunderbolts, and everybody's, that's a stupid name. Then don't fucking call your movie that, man. Like,
Then don't do that.
Get the fuck out of here. Like, it's Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts is a cool name because the comic is cool. Embrace it. All right.
Yeah. Don't knock it off with the self-loathing.
Yeah.
Also, apropos of the Thunderbolts movie and the enthusiasm around Dark Avengers and stuff like that, I don't remember what I was going to say. Damn it. I had it. I had it.
Right there. Dark
right
Avengers,
there.
Captain America, the Brave New World.
Oh, yeah. Brave New World is coming. I don't know.
It could be cool, man. They're chasing Winter Soldier. There's worse movies to chase.
Agreed.
Yeah, worse
it could be worse.
Movies to chase, man, is all I'm saying. Okay, so anyway, well, Sal tries to remember his point. Anyway, we open back on Krypton, but with a new stupid sequence of how Zod and the gang got arrested. It's dumb. And we are further reminded with the previous movie because clips from the movie are intercut with the credits, which I wanted to point out. The first names are the Salkinds, and then the first actor mentioned is Gene Hackman, which I always that's always fun.
Yes, an actor who, by the way, didn't film extra scenes for this movie. Like,
yeah, so again, because there were reshoots, Gene Hackman was like, "No, thanks. Whatever I already shot for it,
you got it.
Yeah.
You don't need shots of me from behind. You don't need me to even do voiceover work. How about we get a sound alike to do?
No, I'm good. I'm good. Thanks. I'm good." So after the recap, we are in the Daily Planet. Clark shows up. Apparently, there is a terrorist hostage situation in the Eiffel Tower. These terrorists somehow got a hydrogen bomb.
Oh, the collapse of the oh wait, it's 80.
It's 80. No, which becomes confusing when we get to the moon sequence. I was like, wait, where are we in the timeline of? Is this just a very optimistic movie? I'm not a
yeah, they're all trying to be optimistic. Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So it turns out Lois is already there, but when she gets there, she finds out about the bomb, which I found confusing because I thought the way Perry phrased it, she already knew about the bomb.
Why are you there?
Yeah.
Otherwise,
and also Perry, he's like, yeah. She'll get the report and she'll probably interview the bomb. And it's like, yeah, but are you really gonna blow your reporter?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he's just really comfortable with Superman rescuing her all the time,
dude. Yes, yes.
He's like, why should I worry about? Like, I canceled Lois Lane's health insurance policy months ago.
Yeah, she clearly doesn't need it.
Yeah.
There's also a little bit where she's trying to sneak in the Eiffel Tower and she's talking to this French policeman and she doesn't speak French. And I'm like, well, she should speak French.
Yeah.
That would be.
Yeah, but she's got to be kind of stupid. Like,
man.
We got to make sure that that's in there. Got to make sure that you, like, undermine any of her accomplishments by reminding you that she's kind of a dumbass. I always loved her, like, her not being able to spell, but I think that's just kind of funny. Yeah. It's like it's an ironic thing where it's like she's so capable and so smart and so resourceful, and she can't spell. And I'm like, that's a funny, weird, quirky thing that I'm like okay with, but making her just a Nimrod. And Margot Kidder, I believe, like, she is such a good actor. I definitely believe that Lois Lane is as dumb as a sack of hammers, and it has a lot to do with Margot Kidder just being that committed. I don't know.
It's tough, man. Like, it's tough because I'm sure you have people in your life too that whenever you talk to people that are maybe like, I know Roxy doesn't like my host on Only Super Answers does not like Lois Lane. When I was watching this movie, my wife was like, oh, Lois Lane, she's so dumb. And it's so hard to be like, no, like, you know what I mean? And you got to, like, forget literally almost every on-screen adaptation of the character ever.
Yeah.
Forget all of them.
Except for the animated series.
Except for the animated series. My Adventures with Superman's Lois Lane's pretty great.
Yeah.
And the Superman and the Lois and Superman and Lois is good, although she does suffer from some of the stuff that any of these CW show characters suffer from.
Yeah.
Which is you're shooting 1 billion episodes with half the money of any, but here's hoping for James Gunn's.
I think that casting, and she's wearing the outfit from the animated series and like that. So that approach, I'm in. It's actually one of my most reviled moments from All-Star Superman, like the comic book, which is Superman's like justification for his love for her.
Yeah.
Which is just him saying like, well, there's something I can't help.
Yeah.
And I'm like, So you don't have an idea, Morrison? Is that the idea? Like you just don't
Yeah.
you don't have time or the inclination to actually explain. Like it'd be nice to have like the greatest man on
Yeah.
earth give Lois anything.
Yeah.
Any kind of like ground, and yet the only admission he has is you're like my weakness.
Yeah.
Like
I think there would be merit in a Superman movie that is specifically from Lois's perspective as she tries to figure out what this guy's deal is, and you can see through her eyes how she interacts with Clark and how she interacts with Superman and how she might piece those things together.
Yeah.
But we haven't got one of those yet. So anyway, Lois decides to sneak into the Eiffel Tower to interview. I unclear what she's trying to do. She gasses herself up by talking about a Pulitzer Prize, and then at some point she shifts to getting a Nobel Prize, which maybe I don't know all the things they give Nobel Prizes for, but I don't know how that applies to this.
I think it's just more evidence that she's kind of a dumbass, and I'm
like, okay, cool.
Like she doesn't like. She's like, I know I want a Pulitzer because I'm a reporter, but like they're all the same, and it's like, well, no. At all.
Nobel, let us know in the chat. You get Nobel Prizes for science and for like peace.
Yeah, I guess like I mean, maybe her justification is like, if I stop the bomb, I can get a Nobel Prize. But I'm like, I don't think you get a bomb for being like a hero.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You don't get an award for being a hero. Like,
listen, maybe in this universe, maybe in a universe with Superman. So anyway, while she's sneaking in, the cops, the French police do police shit and inadvertently activate the hydrogen bomb. They're like, okay, so we're gonna cut this elevator. We know the bomb's on the elevator, but they're like, it's not activated. And they're like, nah. And so they cut the elevator cable, activate the bomb. But fortunately, Superman, he's there to save the day. He gets Lois off the elevator and then launches that elevator up into space, and just so happens to blow up right as the Phantom Zone mirror is flying right by Earth.
Yeah. How did it originally blow? Like, how did they get out in the Donner cut? Since apparently the Paris sequence was entirely reshot.
Yeah, so apparently it was a missile. He redirects a missile, like who knows,
all right,
whatever.
So it's still like a convenient. They were still going to be within Earth's atmosphere.
Yeah, this becomes more egregious later when Lex Luthor is getting a Wikipedia entry on Zod, Ursa, Non, and Lara's like, only concern with the Phantom Zone is what if. Crazy, but hear me out. What if like a nuclear bomb was thrown into space and blew it up? Then they might get free, but what are the odds of that happening?
Right.
And it's like, okay, do another pass on this.
You might want to
do another pass on this.
It feels a little self-referential, but also, what are you doing?
Yeah.
No.
So he throws it into space. It blows up. The shockwave knocks him back to Earth, but it also frees Zodders are not who, by the way, acquit themselves immediately. Clearly, there was no conversation. It's unclear to me how the people making this movie view Kryptonians and how Kryptonians are supposed to view themselves. Like, if I were to ask Richard Lester, Dick, do the Kryptonians fly and have super strength on their own planet, or is that unique?
He doesn't know. He's like, yeah, probably, right?
Sure.
Man, there's a little bit of growing pains, but it's still like it's not enough. You also tell that this director in particular is a huge fan of having a mute character like Non in this movie. Like, I was like, you don't need Non. I remember as a kid being like, I don't need the like. It was which James Bond movie was out? Was it a Jaws one?
Yeah.
Because I feel like you just really got like Bond envy, where they're like, I like the idea of like a big dumb mute bad guy who just makes goofy faces. Like, as a kid, I hated it. As an adult, I find it condescending, and I'm like, I don't like it. And I'm just like, it'd be fun to just have kind of Zod and Ursa, like, which is why for the most part, anytime in comics you see them, they kind of leave Non out.
They kind of leave Non out. I think Non could work. I think it would be almost impossible to make Non work in this time, because I think what you would need to do to make Non work is that he is such a power because clear his size, whatever, that he's that much stronger.
Right.
Because under normal conditions, he would be that much stronger than Superman. Now that they have super strength, he is even more powerful than Superman is. And so he's that physical threat, which they try to utilize, like when he's destroying the Daily Planet.
Yeah.
It just kind of gets, it's harder to depict with 1980s special effects.
Yeah.
Than it would be now. Although I was thinking about it, and we're not there yet, but Sal insinuated earlier.
Yeah.
The powers, what powers people have and why is kind of all over the map. And
yep.
It's like, I started to wonder, this is how the movie didn't really grab me. My mind started to wander. I was like, is there something interesting in having different Kryptonians get different powers? Like this is Superman's power set.
He can fly and he's
something different, and Non gets something different. Like maybe Non doesn't get heat vision. We have a whole running gag with that. But maybe he is like that much stronger than the rest. You know what I mean? Like, would there be something? Is there something
there? Yeah. But that's a fun exercise that, like, you could tell no one creatively in this movie is interested in having. Like,
no,
these guys are. I mean, and it's like a running thing you'll see in like the ongoing conversation of cinema and film and filmmaking and people, like 30 and under who are trying to break into the industry and whatnot, who are like, I'm not here for the fun and games. I'm not here to like make an adaptation of Plastic Man. Like, I'm here to make cinema. I'm a filmmaker.
Yeah.
I'm here to like make this puppy come out, and it's like, that's kind of like there's no fun. No one's having fun except for like this new director who's just like, and it's like the most simplistic, like goofy pleasures. It's that kind of thing where like it's the forced laughter of a live theater production. Where you're seeing an old play or a Shakespearean play full of an ocean of audience members that don't understand what's happening, but they laugh anyway.
Yeah.
And you can feel the forced laughter because they are expected to laugh and they're part of a community effort. Like these people are making this movie and they're like, this is going to make the audience laugh because it is the joke.
Yeah. And it's interesting too. I think this is a good example of how Superman 1 and then was way ahead of its time.
Completely.
And then the first two Tim Burton Batman movies were ahead of their time. And it's like you're slowly getting closer. Tim Burton got 2 out. You know what I mean?
All I could think about, like every time that like this, but because you could tell like pretty much like the Kryptonians are like the other director's like bread and butter. Like he's like, every time I get these guys on screen, I'm gonna have fun.
Yeah.
All I could think about was Jonathan Kent having a heart attack in the first movie.
Yes, dude.
I'm like deadly serious. This poor old man's going, oh no.
Yeah. Like a real human moment. We cut to the wide. We almost experience it silently because it's in that wide.
It's true. Or that fucking Non just going. Are you freaking?
And it's true, and it's funny too because I think there is this weird gravitational pull to it too because you can kind of feel it in some ways. Granted, the MCU is a different apparatus, but you can, and this is different by the way. What we're complaining, this is different than something like Deadpool or She-Hulk that are taking. They are comedies. You know what I mean? Like we are trying to make a comedy as opposed to like
how dare you put Megan Thee Stallion in your She-Hulk office comedy?
Dude, like, we were talking about, I think it comes out next week, but we were talking about teases in the MCU after Endgame that probably won't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And the one I had to kind of pause on was the Scar tease at She-Hulk because it's a joke. Like everybody got so bent out of shape about it. It's like in the beginning of the episode, she jokes about like, and we'll probably have a character that would, a character tease at the end of the thing. And then they do because it doesn't matter. That's the point. Like, the point is that it doesn't matter.
He probably isn't truly canon. I hope it isn't, but also like don't get mad about that. Like get mad about introducing Hercules.
Yeah. And also who cares about Scar? Like who really
no
cares
one.
About Scar?
I'm like, that is Scar is like the worst thing you could do.
It would be like teasing Decan. It's like nobody's excited about this.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Like, oh boy, Wolverine's son. I haven't seen and like making him canon, like making it be like, no, that's That's Hugh Jackman, Wolverine's son, and he's going to be canon in the MCU. Like
Yeah.
that kind of sucks.
Yeah, nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Nobody
Yeah,
wants
so
that.
but that's the point. The point is,
Yes.
this isn't. It's not. This isn't
the
meant to be a
hating fun.
comedy. It's just like it's just kind of this thing of like, well, yeah, it's superheroes. This is dumb. This is like this is like Saturday morning cereal shit or Saturday
Yes.
morning cartoons. Like you remember, and it's like yeah, that's what George Lucas and Richard Donner and the rest of them, which is kind of what we're doing now with the Marvel stuff.
Yep.
Is taking stuff that we cared about as kids and pulling out the things that were meaningful about it and not necessarily making it more adult, but taking it more seriously. And that's can be tricky because I would argue one of my issues with Star Wars, which isn't really Star Wars' fault, but like Star Wars and a lot of Spielberg's work is now George Lucas and Steven Spielberg have lashed us to their nostalgia, which is also what Walt Disney did. When you go down Main Street in Disneyland or Disney World, that's Walt Disney's nostalgia. Our generation is now locked into this nostalgia of previous generations.
Oh yeah, no, we are nostalgic. Like Disney is trying to replicate nostalgia for a nostalgia homage to a 1930s cereal.
Yeah.
Like it would be like that. Like that's the example we have. It's like we're trying in the year 2024, 25 to make movies that are based off of movies from 100 years ago.
Yeah. Well, it really stuck out to me when they were promoting Jurassic World Dominion because I don't even think it's in the movie, but the clip was there's all these kids like hanging out at the drive-in theater that's playing like, what was it playing? Like Poltergeist or something.
Yeah.
And then the T-Rex busts through and it's like, hold on. Nobody's going
to a drive-in movie.
Like, it's just out of touch. But anyway,
no, the audience would be a bunch of like 40-year-old nerds who are like, oh boy, a drive-in movie experience. Like,
dude, my wife and I were watching Bedknobs and Broomsticks. Wow, we're really off the map here. Sorry, everybody.
Good movie though.
Yeah, but it was one I hadn't watched it since I was a kid. And there's a sequence that takes place during World War II. It was made in 1970s, and it opens with this thing of like, remember the days of valor so long ago. And it's like, for you, that's 30 years, man. Like, calm down.
Like, no one remembers it.
Yeah. No. But these guys are like marching off to war, and it's all these old men. Which in my brain, as a child, I was like, oh yeah, because World War II was a long time ago. And it's like, no, they'd be
not for them.
That's who we sent to get murdered in the trenches in World War II, not old men.
Yeah.
Anyway, nostalgia. It's weird. Lois, there's a bit. Lois, I don't even know why this joke exists. Lois is obsessed with vitamin C, but she's smoking at the same time. She's a woman. Women are dumb, I guess, is the joke. I don't know.
It's ironic. It's funny because she wants to take care of her health, but also she's actively hurting it.
Yeah, but to your point, man, you're right.
Right.
Lois Lane bags the most powerful man on the planet. Let's put a little work into like, what if we gave Lois Lane to Greta Gerwig? I'm sure Greta Gerwig could turn out a pretty dope Lois Lane.
Oh yeah. But the thing is, like, I don't want to and I don't want like a Superman movie, or Lois Lane redemption kind of movie at the expense of Superman.
No.
That's the problem I have with current deconstructive pop cinema and shows is like, well, it's got to be at the expense of the thing. It can't just be complimentary or addendum. It has to be reductive. And it's like,
I do spoilers for anybody that's not checked out the first issue of Absolute Superman. But I do like what we're doing with Lois Lane there. I'm like, yeah, that's what you do now. Yeah, just make her secret agent. That's what you do. Yeah, just do that.
The problem is it's just so ultra dark. It's like they did, what other universe has secret agent murdering Lois Lane? The Flashpoint universe.
Yeah. No, you and I can talk about Absolute Comics.
Absolute Comics.
We can talk. That's another show. That's another conversation for another day.
It's
but
true,
I do like that. I also like the idea. I don't know how it's going to pay off, but I do like the idea that like Superman in that universe doesn't just naturally solar charge. Like he's got to hook himself up to stuff. It's like there's something there. There's
an interesting idea. There's a lot of like neat ideas that are like just thrown at the wall. That comic is like I basically described as unfinished brownies.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, there's a lot going on here, and like it looks ready, and then you cut into it, and you're like, oh, that's not finished.
Yeah. So, Gene Hackman is wearing an obvious
saves
bald
the
cap.
movie.
Yeah, he's in an obvious bald cap, hanging out in prison with Otis.
Dressed like the freaking dressed like he's gonna sell Cookie Crisp. Like it's like, come on, like
they're in cartoon prison. Yeah,
they're in cartoon prison. Also, can we enough with the sidekicks?
Yeah,
get Otis, Tessmacher, get them the crap out of here.
Okay, so Tessmacher is the one that really got me because it's like, wait, wasn't Lex gonna blow up her mom last?
Why is she still? Is the economy that bad?
Because the bit is we jump around a bit, but the bit is he's building a secret. Gene Hackman saves this, by the way.
He does.
The Lex Luthor stuff really shouldn't work, except Gene Hackman's great, and he's built a secret black box because their radar has trouble tracking Superman, but they know he goes north, so he's made a little black box to follow his whatever. It doesn't matter, and so then he breaks out of the prison with the help of Miss Tessmacher, but Otis gets left behind. Oh no, sorry, Otis.
I remember as a kid being really happy that happened.
Yeah. And this all culminates. I'm just gonna sum up that part of it. They head north until finally he gets to the Fortress of Solitude, which has no security to speak of, and he's just able to goof around with the crystals. And Superman's mom, Laura, right? That's his mom's name.
Laura, yes.
Yeah, she shows up, and basically he stumbles onto the backstory of Zod, Ursa, and Non. Which it matters later. So that's Lex for now. So then we get to Ursa. Sal, you're frozen up. Are you there? Oh no. This is the fun of doing it live, everybody. This is the fun part of doing it live, is occasionally you'll get technical difficulties. And the question is it on my end or on your?
Was it me? It might have been me.
Oh, is it you? Are you back? Hey,
I'm sorry. Oh my god.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Listen, man, I was just telling the kids at home. It's the fun part of doing it live.
Sorry.
No, hey, listen, it could have been me. I was having my own technical difficulties earlier.
I know.
So
take it from the top.
Yeah, Zod and Non are hanging out on the moon. And Ursa goes up to one astronaut and just starts casually talking as if,
she's great, by the way. Can we just say that? Like Ursa, Sarah Douglas is fantastic.
Awesome.
Like,
great.
She's owning it, and she's like, she takes it deadly seriously. She's sexy and scary.
Yep.
I'm like, this is so cool. This is cool.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned it, because there was a part of me of like, I don't know, man. I feel like I could change Ursa. There's part of me that feels like
that's the danger of a character like Ursa. Is you just like, I could tame her.
I don't know, man. I just feel like we could figure things out. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah. There's no way. She's so scary. She's just like she's like a cobra. Like
yeah. Well, I mean, there's a reason they do the snake bit with her. It's like that's the vibe. That's the vibe.
Yeah.
And she has a thing where she collects patches, memorabilia from all the people she murders, all the soldiers she murders, and this starts with these astronauts. And there's a sequence where all the Kryptonians murder various astronauts, and I mentioned this earlier, but there's astronauts and cosmonauts just like chilling on the moon.
Yeah,
and it's like, this feels.
Could it be them like hedging their bets, where they're like, I don't know who's gonna like keep the moon after this, like.
I do like the idea of science being
non-denominational.
Yeah, which is something we're getting further and further from, I feel like, unfortunately.
Big time.
But I do like the the implication. I like that.
Yeah, me too. No, I'm 100% on board for that.
Yeah. So we also get John Ratzenberger, who I think was also in Superman 1. I couldn't remember. I think some of these astronaut people show up in Superman the movie. Okay, so this is one of my issues with the movie. It's structured weird. Superman the movie was also structured weird.
Yes.
But this takes it to another level, because while we get a good chunk of the next part of the movie, like a good half of the movie, is Zod, Ursa, and Non just cutting a swath through the United States, just murdering people and taking on the army. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, while that's going on, possibly the worst thing this planet has ever seen.
Seriously.
Meanwhile, Clark and Lois on this weird caper, like they're undercover as a married couple for reasons that I missed and did not feel the need to go back and figure out what was going on.
I don't remember what the plot reason is. I know what the real reason is, and it's because they're like, they think it's cute. They're like, that's what you would do in this situation. Like, you want to get these two together.
So we couldn't give them like a cool story to be cover or whatever.
No.
Lois is on the same page with me. She's bummed she has to cover the story.
Yeah, especially when you have the 3 Supermen.
Yeah, and like they don't hear about like they
take over a small town.
Okay, so what ends up happening in this Lois and Clark subplot is basically Lois finds out Clark Kent is Superman. It's an extended. The first we start off with Clark. She like cleans Clark's glasses. She gets a glimpse of Clark without his glasses. And she's like, wait a second, hold on.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the dumbest kid on the planet falls off into Niagara Falls.
Yeah, natural selection at work, folks. Just let him go. He also falls for like a half an hour.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then Superman says, this reminds me of, he gets to me in the same pantheon of kids as what's his friend name? Boo in It, the little kid in the in the new version of Georgie. Because in the new version of It, he sees a clown. He's in the 80s, by the way, not the 50s now. So and he sees a clown in the sewer whose eyes are going every direction and like blood's oozing out of his mouth.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know. I'll play this out. I'll see how this goes.
I want to see how this goes. He has my vote. After all.
If it wasn't this, something was getting Georgie.
Yeah, Georgie was going to go in an ice cream van or a sewer. Or
Georgie was not. Georgie
was long for this world.
Bright, but not long. You know, like he wasn't. And same with this kid. It's
same with Niagara Falls boy. He's something's gonna get him. He's gonna get eaten by wild dogs. We don't know, but
but not
Superman
today.
It's the same execution
because Superman saves him.
Yeah,
but now,
there's fun to be had here. The concept of like Lois finding out that Clark Kent is Superman, or an extended sequence of Lois suspecting that Clark is Superman and putting him through an elaborate sequence of like tests that maybe Superman is aware or unaware of. Maybe he like through Clark's vision, it seems like he's unaware of them, but actually he bumbles his way around it. So that Superman is aware that she's aware, and so he plays around with it. But like it's utterly joyless. And Superman is like really weirdly like mean about it. Like not that he's not like he's Chris Reeve is still earnest and forthcoming and kind, but like when she eventually throws herself off the thing, he's like, I'm gonna prove, I'm gonna teach this woman a lesson. About like trying to prove about just like, about what? Like she tried to have a direct conversation with him. He did not want to have it, and so she threw herself over the falls. And he's just like, I'll just use my vision and stuff like that, like subtly to get her to like embarrass herself in front of everybody. Like it's just, and then the irony, of course, is of the reveal is like, I guess that's what the point of it was, but also it's stupid.
It's stupid. It's really dumb. But we're gonna get there in a second. Yeah, but I think this is where you get into the conversation about taking stuff seriously. Like obviously it's about a guy in tights that can fly, like we all know. But you take the characters and their motivations seriously, because you get into like, okay, because then you start having creative conversations like, why does Clark want to keep it from Lois at this point?
Right. Like you literally altered the space-time continuum to save her life.
Save this woman. And at this point, who knows how much time has passed since Superman 1,
right?
You guys are close, and so you either trust this person or you don't. And so then you would have to have the conversation of like, okay, if we want him to keep it a secret, then we should use some of our real estate in this movie to emphasize Lois Lane is the most dogged reporter on the planet. So it's not unreasonable for Clark to be worried that despite her feelings for him, the reporter in her will need to report the truth. That could be a genuine fear. And now you're getting into real character motivation stuff that would make this. And I kind of like what you were getting at, where Lois is trying to prove it, but she doesn't want him to know. And I think it might be interesting. Like you said, there's multiple ways you could play it that would all work.
Yeah.
I think the one that would interest me most is Clark is so guileless. Superman's so guileless and so not cynical. Yeah. He's not really picking up on it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I'm okay with that too.
Yeah. Like he's like, oh, it didn't occur to me that you would try and whatever. But the opposite works too, where he knows, but he doesn't want her to know, and she doesn't want him to know. That also works.
Yep.
That's not what we're getting. It's just a
No.
dumb. She jumps off into a river, and he like uses his heat vision to give her a branch.
Yeah.
And you're right. Even though like he's just trying to keep a secret, there's a weird like kind of bullying feel.
Yeah,
to it.
yeah.
Like,
Well, because at the end of it, when he gets her, he's like, "Geez, I don't know what you were doing with that whole thing. Like that's." Gee golly, gee whiz, that was really dumb of you. And she's like, "Yeah, I feel like a friggin' idiot." And I'm like, well, what's the point of this?
And so this all culminates he just revealed it here because what this culminates is Clark trips.
He trips
into a fire.
Yeah, and he doesn't burn himself. She checks him out, and she's like, "You didn't even get a little bit burned."
Are we supposed to infer from this that he's Superman? Did he subconsciously trip?
Right, like who took over in that moment? Was that like, did Clark fully take over, and he actually his clumsiness is like actually kind of a problem? I don't know.
That is another thing that's kind of unclear. Of like, how distinct do you guys think Clark and Superman are?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, if I had to ask Richard Lester, Dick, how distinct do you think Superman?
He'd be like, I don't know. Why do you keep asking me these questions, man? Who cares?
Who gives a shit? It's just Superman. Come on,
it's a silly ass comic book movie. Who gives a crap?
I think at this point you could still buy comics for a dime. Like,
yeah, they're the lowest form of entertainment. I'm like,
yeah.
Okay.
So he trips into a fire. He reveals it. They decide to have this conversation someplace else. So he takes her to the Fortress of Solitude. This all culminates to another confusing. This is the moment where I remember, hey, this video's live. I have assets. Boom, there they are.
Look at that. Smooth. Finally together. We've always wanted to see this two get together.
Oh, dude. They go to Pound Town. they go to Pound Town.
Yep.
But this gets us to another moment that, if I'm being honest, I find kind of baffling. This is another one of those. It's like, what's going on in these creators' minds? Because Superman asks his mom permission. Can I get with Lois Lane? And his mom's like, yeah, but you have to renounce everything about being Kryptonian. It's like, again, what is being Kryptonian? I know we like to say Superman's like a god. Do you guys really think this is like a Hercules pantheon deal? Right? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, and that's the part where I'm like, I don't know what the hell's happening anymore. Like as a kid, I was like, what? I think it's what this also is emblematic of my problem with movies from this time. This kind of like imposed morality and expectation that like I outright rejected as an adult, which is this like, when you find the one, you die. And all the previous things you were are gone because now you're this. Like your friendships, all that was all nice, but it's all essentially scaffolding to build the man that you are now. A man who is capable of wooing a woman who will then be your partner and only friend in this life.
Yeah.
And then all that falls away. It's like building a rocket ship. You know, like all that, you have all this very expensive stuff, and it all really mattered when we were building it. But once that rocket takes off, it all burns up. And I'm like, and that's what this is. She's like, because there's that moment where he says, "Mother, I love her," and it's like that's the most important thing in that scene. He's like, "I love her," and she's like, "Okay, then I guess." Because then I guess that implies that you can't be Superman ever again.
Yeah.
Like, what?
I also think it gets to this thing where you try to make, obviously the original Superman origin calls back to the Moses story. But this movie, Superman the movie forward, Superman's a Christ analogy. And I think it's bad instinct, truthfully. I really think it's a bad instinct because it is one of those like in the first movie, I kind of don't like the implication that like Jor-El is sending him to Earth to be Superman.
Yeah, how would he know? What is Jor-El's thing? And it's like, well, don't think about that. But also, here's all this really weird minutia about like Kryptonians, and I'm like, what is are they prognosticators? Are they seeders of humanity? Like, are they the engineers? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, the farthest I like it that they'll take it is maybe my favorite iteration is I just need to get my son off this planet onto one where he won't die.
Yeah.
And the farthest I would take that is like, I know on this planet he'll have superpowers, and so that may mean he won't die.
Yeah.
When you start getting into like Smallville, like just couldn't help but trip over all this stuff of like, you're meant to do the whatever, and it's like, get out of here with that shit.
Agreed. I know.
And here it carries over into here where it's like, well, if you marry a woman, you can't be space Jesus because Jesus never got married. It's like that doesn't make any sense within the context of who he is. Because he's not space Jesus, he's just Superman.
Yeah, well, and I think like we've gotten to the point where we've had at least 3 movies like that lean heavily into that concept.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, okay, we've proven that this doesn't work. This analogy is felonious. Like, and if you like, you can't say we haven't explored the concept.
Yeah.
So we've done it, and it doesn't work or hold water, or at the very least, we've done it. Yeah. Let's try another analogy. Superman, or we could just stick with Superman. Yeah, Superman is already a myth. Yeah.
He's his own distinct myth.
He can like anything.
Yeah, we can just do that. Like, yeah. And there's really something I think cool about the idea of a sci-fi myth that it's like we just let go of that.
Yeah, Donner kind of gets it, like, because that's the thing, right? Like, Superman is America's attempt at offering up another myth.
Yeah,
in the most like generous of circumstances, because I know that there's some that are like, some people reject the whole Morrisonian super gods concept, and I'm like, I respect that.
Yeah,
but let's say in the most generous and complimentary of terms, Superman is America's attempt at being like, because we do that. We Paul Bunyan, Johnny Appleseed, like we make shitty myths. Superman is one of our best ones.
Yeah, we started nailing it when we got to Superman, Batman, Spider-Man.
When we got to comic books, we completely nailed it.
Yeah.
Well, that's right. But also, like the best parts of America, it comes from multiple sources. It wasn't just the comic book.
Yeah.
It was the radio show, the movie, the cartoon, the comic book, like all these different concepts that came up with Superman stuff that the culture goes, yes. Like we all are like kryptonite, fortress, dog. Like like we all kind of like unanimously agree on all these different like facets that all don't come from one singular source, which is also distinctly American. Hooray! Yes. So like,
and it's also distinctly myth making. That's how
yes,
yeah.
We all contribute to it. It's when it's oral history. When you're sharing around the fire, we add things to the myth until eventually we get to this like a larger than life concept. But Donner, you could tell, is like doing that with at least the first movie. He's like, here it is. Like this is going to, and at the very least cinematically he is, because like, which Raimi is like a student of, because you can tell like Spider-Man is just a perfect version of that.
Yeah.
But lean into that, folks. Like make Superman a myth, make Superman an attempt without it being also like, oh, but also he's doing the stigmata, or oh, also he's like doing the the loaves and fishes, or oh look, he's in the bassinet.
He's in the Christ. Did you see? Yeah, man. Yeah.
No, I did. I saw it, and I also don't understand what the point is.
Yeah. Also, like, he was created by 2 Jewish guys. Like, can we like let it like and I know Jesus was a Jew, but like, come on, can we like?
But they weren't. Like,
they weren't. Man,
they were not fans. Like,
can we like let it go? Like,
yeah, or like what's the point? Like, what is your overall attempt at like at Christianifying Superman, or tethering him? And I like I think in a pure form, it's just they want him to be the myth. They want him to matter the way that Christianity does, or the way that Judaism does. And it's like, he already does, baby.
Yeah. Yes, yeah, and anyway. So this point of like, no, but you have to stop being Superman. I think a more organic version of this is him coming to the realization that I don't think I can, like, wasn't it John? I don't even know if I saw the interview, but I think people are sharing around. John Cena was like, I don't think I could be a dad. I don't think I could be the dad I'd want to be and be doing the things that I'm doing.
Right.
That's a human, like Superman being like, I want to be with this woman.
Yes.
But being Superman, I'm almost obligated to put literally everybody else on the planet first.
Yeah.
And so then he goes to his mom. Mom, can I let this space mom, ghost mom, can I let this go? And she's like, well, I guess if you want to do this, but that's kind of
selling yourself short.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, all right.
Yeah. But also, like, and I understand, like, obviously, like, Lara is there so that we don't have to use
Marlon Brando. Yep.
Brando. Yeah. But also, there's something kind of like sweet about him being like, "Hi, Mom. Can I marry this girl?" Like, it's just kind of like, it's cute, like, and sweet, and I get it. But also, I don't know. It's,
and if you know that you're not gonna use Marlon Brando's footage. Use that Kryptonian opening and do it. If you're going to do the Kryptonian opening again, do it from Laura's perspective.
Yes.
Because now she's going to matter in this movie.
Exactly. Don't make it confusing where she shows up and you go, where's Dad?
Yeah, where did that?
Cynically, could we assume that maybe the superpowers thing is because they're like, we'll save so much more money if Superman isn't in like a third of the movie?
I don't know, because it's okay. So when he loses superpowers, a baffling sequence.
Oh my God!
Where they like melt the skin off of his body or whatever.
Yeah.
And then like an echo of Superman lives in the chamber, and then he
like,
what is happening right now?
Nothing good. It's all just really weird. And I know for them they're like, but this is as good or as creative as anything that comes from Superman's mythology. Like, how dare you complain about a cellophane S that comes off of his emblem when he shoots freeze breath or you know what I mean? Like, and I'm like, I to that I say,
yeah.
I knew you were ready for it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's so fun. To your point, it is funny the things that like, no, laser vision, dope, freeze breath on it. The cellophane S, hold on, time out. Where is that?
I'm gonna pump the brakes on right there. And they're like, oh, I'm sorry. You guys were all cool with the time travel. No, we were not.
We were not actually, but you know,
we weren't, but we were all
good enough
happy
with the rest of it that we're like, okay, I guess this is the first one. We'll give you.
Yeah, we were just happy you made a Superman movie that looks like Superman.
Yeah. So he gets his skin melted off and he gets rebuilt as Clark Kent. And this lasts all of like less than a day.
Yeah.
Less than a day. Like basically they go on their little like honeymoon. They bang immediately.
They have like a bang room. It's like a little chamber with like with sheets and everything.
Yeah. So they bang. And this, by the way, thinking way ahead, put a pin in that for Superman Returns.
Yeah. Kevin Smith has a great moment about that where he just kind of like his criticism of it during his Evening with Kevin Smith tour, which when Superman Returns came out around that same time.
Yeah, put a pin in that.
There's a moment like where we'll talk about that at Superman Returns, but in the meantime, don't forget that little moment that Bryan Singer was like, "Ooh, that's my favorite part."
Yeah,
that's not a red flag for me.
Yeah, so then they like somehow get a ride away from the Arctic. And they end up in a diner that I think we're supposed to understand is in Metropolis. Because he goes back there. I guess he can fly at the end of the movie.
How did they get back?
Yeah.
He has no powers, and they're in the Arctic.
And it's one of those like whatever, yada yada, you get back. But then they point it out because he has to get back to he hitchhikes back to the fort.
He has to go back, and they show how hard it is.
Yeah.
Can you imagine they're like 16 miles into their trek across the tundra, and Lois like, you couldn't have like figured out like a car or something.
And there's a whole prolonged sequence of Luthor getting there.
Yeah.
So
we know it's far away.
We're really calling attention to the fact that it is far the F away.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they get back to this diner, and there's a whole sequence where there's this asshole at the diner that for some reason Clark really needs to prove himself. And I'm going to be honest, everything with this bully feels kind of out of character.
Super petty, and I never liked it.
Yeah.
We don't need it. But also, it like mirrors Zod. So I guess it's there. Like, you know, because he has this moment where he gets his ass kicked by the bully.
Yeah.
The trucker.
Yeah.
Which I guess is homaged in Man of Steel or Batman versus Superman. I don't remember which movie it happens.
Whatever. We'll get there.
But but then later when he like gets his, spoilers, he gets his powers back and he fights Zod. But he has one of my favorite lines in the movie, and I think it's earned from him fighting the guy in the diner.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know. It's super petty for Superman.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like, but that's also a moment that as a child, first time I ever saw this movie, I never forgot the line when the diner guy kicks his ass and he says, "Blood, my blood." Like he never thought about that for a second, and he immediately regrets his decision. It's like, I need to get back. I need
instantly, dude. And then Clark, Lois says something like, "I want the guy that I fell in love with." He's like, "I do too." And it's like, none of this is explored. This idea of like, what if maybe he's concerned that she only cares about Superman? That's an idea that you could get into. No, it's he loses one fight once.
Yes.
And then he sees the news about the other Kryptonians, which again, all of this stupid bullshit is happening while the other Kryptonians are literally taking over the planet. There's not like a Zod alarm in the fortress. There's not a news feed. Like he has to wait till he gets back to the stupid diner to find out that now we're back with the Zod plot. We do have a comment, super chat. If you want me to read your comment, do it in the super chat, please, and thank you.
Yeah.
Psycho Jet Black says, "Is this the best version of Zod in all media?" I'm inclined to say, yeah.
He's certainly the one that sets the standard, but like there are comic book versions of Zod. Like the Zod from the Jeff Johns period was pretty cool, but also I'm gonna say this is the best Ursa I've ever seen.
Yeah, 100% on that. I can totally co-sign that. I guess you're right. He said all media. I took that to mean like outside of comics. Is this the best adaptation of Zod? And it's like, I mean,
I don't like him in anything else. So
it's easily the most iconic. Terence Stamp is great, by the way.
He's amazing.
He's great in this. He's also in a Soderbergh movie called The Limey. He's fantastic in that.
Don't forget, he's also in Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. He plays Chancellor Valorum.
Yeah.
He says things that like the point is conceded, or will you defer your emotion to allow a contingent to ascertain the validity of the accusations. Like I've great lines all around.
Committed the memory. He also, by the way, and I thought this was Smallville churned out a lot of content, by the way, and not all of it worked. But a decision that I did think was smart is he is the voice of Jor-El in Smallville, and I actually think that's a really smart choice because it's an early hint that like maybe this isn't lovey-dovey friend of the family Jor-El. Maybe this Jor-El kind of sucks.
Yep.
And I actually think there's some narrative validity to that instinct. Anyway, Terence Stamp's great, but I do think Michael Shannon's a great actor. His Zod is not in the best movie. Terence Stamp.
Movies.
Movies. Oh my god, good point. Anyway, so they've taken over America at this point. There's a whole sequence where they send the whole military. Somehow, for some reason, people with flamethrowers go after them. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing.
It turns into a whole scene, man. Yeah.
The one thing that a couple things need to be pointed out. First off, they think this is Planet Houston because I guess Krypton doesn't have cities.
Yeah, that's fun. All the him being them getting their sea legs is fun.
Yeah, Ursa roasts a snake.
Yeah, like you do.
The one that got me that this was a big like, wait, what's going on? They run into two podunk cops. One of them is not excited to eat fish. Then they use a shotgun on him. Obviously, no effect. And then Zod uses telekinesis to bring the gun to him. Which it was one of those like he uses heat vision and then he telekinesis over. It was like, okay, maybe that was a mistake. No, it's not, because later he uses it again on a guy in the town whose kid sounds like Oliver Twist. Like, oh, papa, oh, papa.
Yes. My God.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Also, everyone's like a goober. The young deputy whose shotgun is taken. He's like, oh, like, I'm just like, what are you, a student of Mo Howard? Like, what's happening here?
It's great. I mean, because we had to save our city destroying money for the big fight, which I'm sure for the time was good. The big fight in 1980 was good. It looked cool. But they changed Mount Rushmore to be there for three phases. We get the iconic line. They roll up on the White House. There's a whole sequence where like the White House military Secret Service tries to take them down. No luck.
Nope.
And somebody else, we get the iconic line of like, kneel before Zod.
Yes.
And the guy kneels and he's like, you did that too easily. You're not a world leader. Where's the real
That's cool.
president?
That's a good line. That's a good moment.
Dude, it works. Terence Stamp's great. He's great.
Yeah.
And then the real president shows up and does something that I cannot believe any president ever would do. He was like, oh, if it'll save lives, I'll kneel for you. It's like, no, I don't know any president that would do that shit.
No.
But
he'd be like, what do you want me to do while I'm down here, sir? Like,
yeah.
That's a great sequence too, though, when like they address the nation and he's just like, okay, I'll address the nation, mainly just to call Superman.
Yeah.
And And then Zod has like that freaking weird speech where he's like, "Yes, Superman, come on down here. Come on down to Zod's Emporium and Kick-Ass Warehouse, and I'm gonna show you a thing or two." But then he's just like, "Kneel before Zod, Zod." Like, dude.
Yeah, he just starts shouting his name before like Clark.
Yeah, the guy turns it off. Like, he goes on like this for about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
There's a repeat.
This also leads to another great sequence because again, Gene Hackman also great, where Lex Luthor shows up at the White House.
Oh, great sequence. I love him strolling into the White House like he owns the place.
Yeah, and he's basically like, "Listen, I know you got all this power. You guys have taken over the world, basically. But you know what you don't have? Because again, you guys remember, kids at home, he got the 411 on Zod's whole deal, and he's like, the son of Jor-El."
Yeah, and Zod's like, "Oh shit."
Yeah. Wait, hold on, our jailer. Hold on, wait a second. So this is, Lex is really putting his neck on the line for this one because he actually doesn't know where Superman is. But his best guess is, listen, if you put Lois Lane in danger, and she's back in Metropolis, by the way.
Oh yeah.
At this point. And so this leads to a whole sequence where Non destroys the Daily Planet, which I actually thought was pretty effective because it's like, we got it in the previous movie and now he's like wrecking shop. Yeah. And this Lois is kind of like, I actually don't know if Superman's actually going to show up and save me. I don't know. At this point, does he have his powers back? I don't know. But he does. And this leads to a big fight throughout Metropolis that is mostly pretty cool.
Yep. Yeah, it's mostly cool. It is never as cool as when he goes up to the window and he says, "Excuse me, General, would you care to step outside?"
Yeah.
Which is a different line in the Donner cut from what I understand. I think he doesn't say that, which I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
That's the best line in the movie.
That's a good one. But
also, I think it's earned because he's like, I am itching to kick someone's ass today.
Yeah. I got my ass handed to me earlier. I'm looking to prove my chops.
Yeah, like I can't turn that red hat wearing bastard inside out today.
Yeah,
but I will punch this guy.
So a whole fight ensues. There's a lot of back and forth. A whole big chunk of it involves Zod and Ursa just puckering lips and blowing half the city away.
They sure like to blow the city away. That sequence goes on for a while. Just
long while, a lot of gags. The whole fight, a whole city wrecking fight's been going on for like 20 minutes. Meanwhile, a guy comes out with ice cream that's blown away. Somebody's on the phone. It's like, where have you been?
Right, what is this? I hope you got the second unit director to shoot this because like this is not worth time.
It goes on for a long time. But yeah, I think I got some of the cool moments. There's a lot of like, Superman puts a building spire over Non, which everybody treats like, oh no, Non's trapped. I'm like, is he really? Is he? There's a moment where the first time like Non takes a swing at Superman, this other lady, we've seen her throughout the movie, but this other lady at the Daily Planet seems amped on it. Like, oh, that guy's as strong as Superman, and it's like, bitch, get out of here.
What are you doing, you lunatic? He's gonna kill everyone.
Lois Lane is like, what? Who are you rooting for, man? Get out of here.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, building spire, they're throwing manholes, they're blowing up cars. This is the beginning of something we will see a lot more moving forward in superhero movies. The big epic throwdown.
Well, and this like new kind of expectation or demand from the audience, which is like, because you've heard it up until and then long after Man of Steel, which is just like, Superman got to punch somebody.
Yeah.
We got to get somebody who can punch him.
Yeah.
We got to get that punching action going. And I'm like, like it's a twofer because it's not just the Superman needs to punch someone. It's also the make a character make a villain who's the same as the hero. Like just
man. And again, credit where it's due. And see, here's a couple things. Credit where it's due. They hold off a movie for that.
Yeah.
It happens in Superman 2, not Superman 1, because we haven't established that trope yet.
Fine.
And you'd think somebody would learn. Sal, if I were to ask you, I feel relatively safe doing this.
Yeah.
The two best rogues galleries in comics. If I were to ask you who have the two best, who would you say?
Batman, Spider-Man.
Yes.
Batman and Spider-Man and they're so diverse and varied.
Exactly. How many in those rogues galleries have the same skill set as Batman and Spider-Man.
I'll tell you this:
maybe
the ones that are the new ones.
Yeah. And so you think somebody would look at that and be like, well, then clearly, if those two characters have the best rogues galleries,
yeah,
let's switch it up, man. Like, let's,
even the Flash, like Flash's rogues
Flash,
gallery, which is called the Rogues, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of them, none of them are speedsters.
Yeah, or you get Zoom
every episode of the Flash.
Yep. Every season, the big bad is another speedster, and it's like, yeah, or maybe think outside the box a little bit. That's my main problem. I don't hate the idea of giving Superman somebody to fight. I'm just bummed that it's always Zod or sometimes like Bizarro or Doomsday.
Dude, and we're gonna get that again.
Yeah, I know, man.
Like, we're not gonna have him fight Brainiac or Metallo or Parasite or the Toy Man
or even Mr.
anything
fun,
man. Like would be friggin' weird, but also I'm like, I would trust James Gunn to make
James Gunn of all people would nail that
completely.
Nail it.
But how about another Superman?
No, dude. No. Because I was kind of thinking about that. I like the way we mentioned it before, but I like the pacing of you first movie, you set up who Superman is. So that in the second movie, when you get other Superman, you're like, oh no.
Like, oh no, now he has to really try.
And as a kid, I was like, well, the way you do a trilogy is you do Luthor, then Brainiac, then you hold out for Zod.
Yeah.
But I think there could be something to be said for like, if in the first movie you set up, no, Zod's out there, by the way, get ready for that one. And then in the second movie, Zod's running around and he's like, well, at least Brainiac's not here because that guy destroyed our whole planet. And then so in the third movie, Brainiac's here and you're like, wait, hold on a second.
Yeah, exactly.
How am I going to stop this guy? So anyway, a big superhero fight. Get ready, gang. That's going to be the main course for every superhero until the heat death of the universe. And Superman, interestingly enough, this whole big fight ends with Superman hightailing it back to the Fortress of Solitude. Kind of unclear. Does he assume they are going to go after him?
Oh, yeah. No, he definitely assumes that they're going after him. It's not just that he's like, I'm just going to leave. This is scary. Bye, everybody. Normally, I'm fighting like 2 missiles at once or a train.
Yeah. Not 3 guys with the same powers as me. So this goes back to the Fortress of Solitude, where we get another little zany bit where, Superman goes up to Lex Luthor and he's like, Lex, don't tell. By the way, knowing these guys have superhearing, by the way, and they're within earshot.
Oh my God,
don't tell Zod, Ursa, and Non that I have this super red sun chamber. Yeah. Then we're going to try and trick him in there. And Lex, which by the way, at this point, Zod, every time Zod gets what he wants, his the first thing he says is kill Lex Luthor.
Kill him, by the way, because this man is dead. We just need to decide at what time. Because I am done with this guy. I was done with this guy when he walked in the room. But yes, I love that. Kill Lex Luthor. And I love there's a moment where Superman finally shows up at the Daily Planet and they're like, and Lex like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
But then he's like, oh, kill him. Like, it's just,
yet for some reason, Lex still keeps placing his bets on Zod. I'm like, no, let Superman win this one, dude.
Yeah, dude. Like, what are you doing? But that moment between him and Lex, where he's just like, there's a chamber over here.
Yeah.
And it takes away their power, see. But then, like, when Lex immediately goes over to Zod, he's like, hey, stop it. It's just so genuine. And it's the sappiest moment in Superman's life where you're like, bro.
Yeah.
You are one gullible jackass. And then the twist, I'm like, oh my God, he was counting on you thinking he was a dumbass.
Yep.
So
because what happens is, because we saw the Red Sun Chamber earlier, but I guess Superman's reverse engineered it. So now everybody that's not in the Sun Chamber loses their Kryptonian powers. Yeah. And this then results in Superman murdering the 3 Kryptonians. He throws each one of them down the pit. Other than, I think Lois is the one.
Lois kills Ursa.
You can't have a guy punch a woman. You just can't do it. So Lois is the one that punches Ursa, kicks Ursa down. And I think in the Donner cut, we see them arrested. And I do kind of like the idea of a depowered Zod, Ursa, Non being in a human prison. It's like, there's something there.
Yeah. There's something neat about that. Like that.
Especially if you build on their relationship more, like if you did a third movie with Brainiac, that now Superman has to go to Zod in prison and be like, okay, what's this guy's deal?
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
But no, they just get thrown down a pit and then they die.
Okay. Yeah, kill them all. Why not? I mean, like, that's also a classic superhero movie trope where it's like, well, just throw the bad guy down a pit.
Yeah.
And
They
then
did.
let him be dead.
Yeah, because I guess closure. I don't know why we're so into making sure the bad guy's dead at the end of the movie.
Is it just like because the bad guy is usually like a high list actor and we can't get them for 2 movies, so we might as well kill them?
We might as well kill them. Is it because we live in a culture founded by Puritans and we're way into punishment? We love things to be punished.
Right, but it's like it's a superhero movie, man. Like these characters are implicitly non-murderous.
Yeah.
By nature, and you're like, let's have them be. Let's change the one aspect that we do definitively know they don't do.
They don't do. Oh yeah, by the way, this whole thing starts off. We mentioned it earlier. This whole thing starts off with Superman throwing a giant cellophane version of his logo to wrap up Zod.
Yep.
Whatever, man. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, kids. I don't know what to tell you.
I don't know, but Family Guy thought it was hilarious too. They put it in their show. It's just
It's something. It is something. So, and Non dies in the dumbest way possible. He tries to fly and just falls to his death because he can't fly anymore.
Yeah. By the way, if you were curious about like how the chamber works, Lex explains it to the audience.
Yeah.
Like literally, we know how the sun chamber works. We saw it. We saw it in action. We saw it twice. Then he's in it. They use it, and then they can't use the powers anymore. Deductive reasoning would suggest that what he did. Then Lex Luthor goes, he changed, like he literally outlines exactly what happened, just in case you're too stupid to not follow the plot. I'm like, smartest man in the world.
There he is, folks. So back at the, oh my God, this sucks. This scene sucks, Sal. Back at the Daily Planet.
Yep.
Lois has a genuine kind of human moment about like lamenting the relationship, and she's got to share him with the world, and yada yada yada.
Yeah,
and this culminates to him giving her a magic kiss that makes her forget everything.
That was weird. I remember as a kid being like, "What the hell?" Like, not only is that not one of his powers, but more importantly, like, what?
Yeah, man. Yeah, let us know in the comments. I know in the originally the time rewind thing in the first movie was supposed to be saved for the second, and now I'm wondering, like, did he rewind it enough that the relationship didn't happen?
Right? Yeah,
that would also be weird. That'd also be weird. It'd be just let her know. Just keep her. Just have her still be in the know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I like that. Weird.
Yeah, and then it ends with Superman now with his powers back, going back and picking on that bully from earlier because I guess Superman's a petty asshole and he needs to feel like a big man. It just feels weirdly. We'll get into this more. I don't know. I think we'll have time to get into the Justice League. I don't know. We'll do the Snyder's Justice League.
No, we're good. We're good. We saw it.
Sal's voting no. Sal's voting
my
no.
word for it, folks. We saw it, and we can refer to it. I'll never forget it. So we're good. We don't need.
But it reminds me. This scene reminds me of there's a in the Snyder cut where they are just clowning on what's Steppenwolf. They're just clowning on Steppenwolf to there's a point where you start feeling bad for Steppenwolf. Calm down. Like this is feeling kind of sadistic now. You won. Let it go.
No.
This reminded me of that. It's like, I don't know why we need to make Superman into a bully. I don't know what's up with that. And then because this made me more sympathetic towards Frank Miller's read on Superman and Batman Returns and The Dark Knight Returns, because this is the second Superman movie in the row where Superman just gently kisses some boots. He flies the American flag back to the White House and he's like, "Hey, Mr. President, I'm your man. We're buddies, you and me. Yeah." Yep.
Sorry
USA,
that I
rah.
Sorry I let some walls get broken, but I promise I'll fix them for no charge. And also,
you can always count on me for whatever
whatever you need, whatever you got. I'm doing it. I'm in.
The United States, especially in 1980, ain't getting up into any shenanigans that I will feel morally compromised about. I'm here for you.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and that's how it ends. That's Superman 2. And now, Sal, we're going to get into some uncharted territory because I don't think I've sat down and watched.
Yeah.
Beginning to end, Superman 3 and Superman 4, A Quest for Peace.
I've seen 4 a lot, but I don't think I've ever seen 3. I've seen parts of 3, but never like enough of it.
So Richard Pryor, I think, in 3, which is wild.
Richard Pryor is the movie. He's like the lead. Like now his name will be higher than Christopher Reeves. Like
sorry, Chris.
Yeah.
Sorry,
he's on the cover. Like he's on the poster. It's Superman holding Richard Pryor, going like, "That's how popular I am." Like that's.
I can't wait. But before we go, Sal, a couple things. Last orders of business. Man of Tomorrow, little section we like to call Man of Tomorrow. What, if anything, do you think we will pull for James Gunn might pull for his new Superman movies from this movie?
Zod.
Yeah.
And the Kryptonians, big time. Seeing Superman's parents, like Lara will be involved in some way.
Yeah.
These is my expectations. I don't actually know. I do know that he's fighting another Superman in this movie, but I don't know necessarily who else is in it. But I'm sure Lara will be involved. The Fortress will be a big factor.
And it will definitely look like the Fortress from this. It's just gonna.
There's no way. And Lex, another one. You're gonna get. This kind of, hopefully a better Lex.
I'm excited for a good I'm hoping Nicholas Hoult. I'm hoping for a good Lex. Give me a good Lex. Yeah.
And I guess the will they won't they of Superman and Lois.
Yeah, where do you think we're going to be on that? Do you think she's going to be in the loop in this movie, or do you think it's still going to be like, well, I don't know.
I mean, Mr. Terrific is in this movie, so I'm like kind of worried that it might be a little crowded and they might not have a lot of room for like will they, won't they? It might be. I mean, because he's not long time Superman. He's established Superman, but not like long established Superman.
Yeah.
So like, will they be like, oh yeah, no, like Lois and Superman had all that crap happen already, and so now they're together, but we don't really overemphasize it. I don't know. But,
yeah, I am. That's something that will probably come up more as we get closer. I am worried that the movie's overcrowded.
Oh yeah, I mean. Guy Gardner's in this movie. The engineer from The Authority is in
this movie. Yeah,
the dog is in the movie.
And to that point, it really stood out to me because when they're at Niagara Falls, Lois Lane's taking her own pictures, and Jimmy Olsen does show up in this movie for like us, like in the Daily Planet scene right before Non destroys everything.
Yeah,
and it got me thinking of like, I wonder how much Jimmy we're gonna get because the actor we got in the new one's great, really great, and that's the bummer when you start footing in all that Justice League stuff. It's like all I really care about is Superman, Lois, Jimmy, and Lex. That's those relationships. It's been a long time since I got a good movie that gave me good versions of those relationships.
Yeah. Oh, don't forget Maxwell Lord, I think, is also in this movie. Like there's like because the Justice League works for Lord. So it's like we're getting a lot of DC world building, which by the way, like girls in the movie, I feel like they could only be in 2 scenes, and it's just to establish the larger DC universe. I don't know.
I really want. I feel this. I was talking to a friend this past week, and they dropped new footage from the Daredevil Born Again coming out next year, and I feel the same way about Superman, the new Superman, that I do about Daredevil Born Again. Will it be good? I don't know. But I really kind of need it to be good. Like I really want to win. I could really use a win, gang, on this front. And I really want this to be as good as I want it to be.
Yeah, I agree. I need it to be like, and I would love it to just be Guardians of the Galaxy in the DC universe. Like it's just that kind of movie where it's like, yeah, it's about this. You see all these characters in it.
Yeah.
But this is the main character. And really, it's like this is the main character, but in this is their inner circle that are also the main character. Like this cell with like this nucleus and all these other things, they're all going on one journey. I'm like, all right,
yeah, we'll see, man. But I think from this movie, we were critical of how they handled the Lois Superman stuff, but I do hope that this. I guess the Man of Steel movies understood this too. They just didn't do it well. That like the core, that nuclear core of Superman is Lois and Clark.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. Last thing, last Son of Krypton. Sal, let's rank these.
Okay.
This should be an easy one. I
think we got time. Yes.
Yeah. So what's your ranking right now?
It's got to go. Superman is number 1. Superman 2 is number 2.
Okay, Sam. What are the odds that anything bumps Superman 1? What are the chances?
Not great.
Not great, right? Not great. I think I might lean into the branding of this section as the last son of Krypton, as the question will be, which is last? Because I think Superman the movie's gonna just sit at the top.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
the remainder of the show.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough, like to decide what's worse. Like, what's the worst Superman movie?
Yeah, yeah.
They only get worse.
They only get worse. That's a bummer. That bums me out. And it reminds me of there's a show. I did an interview with Michael Swaim. I listened to Small Beams. They have a show called Kings of King where they rate adaptations of Stephen King, and they do their ranking. And it's once they did The Shining, it's like, well, that's always going to be the top. That's always going to be the top. It's The Shining. That's the answer. What's the best Stephen King adaptation? The Shining. That's the answer.
Yeah. It certainly ain't Pet Sematary. I just watched that movie again for my wife saw it like more or less for the first time, and she was like, "This sucks."
The OG Pet Sematary. Bad news. The news Pet Sematary is also not great.
Well, I'd heard that like they didn't want to make it like that, like that it was made like kind of in haste.
Yeah.
And I mean, well, obviously Fred Gwynne as Judd in the original Pet Sematary, the '89 one.
Yeah.
Best part about the movie.
Oh,
like
100%.
he crushes it. There's a sequence where he is like, he's sad at he's at the table. It's after they bury it. It's after the kid dies.
Yeah.
And they're at the dinner table with him and the dad, whose name escapes me. Even though they say it 1,000 times.
It doesn't matter.
But him and the dad. And the dad is like a TV actor. Like he might as well be in an episode of like Empty Nest or something.
Yeah.
And Fred Gwynne is acting.
Yep.
And he's just like, I may have killed your kid because I like told the power about your son. Like, you know what I mean? Like because he is really doing something and no one else is.
Yeah.
Like literally nobody in that movie is even close. And it's so weird how bad that movie is.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how prolific and influential Stephen King is, and how many bad adaptations there are.
And how bad the books are too. Like they're not great. Like Stephen King is I get it, but also like, you read them and I'm like, I mean, all right. I read a lot of Stephen King.
All right, I was going to start going on my feelings on The Stand, which I think might be my favorite Stephen King book.
I read The Stand in like a week and a half, and let me tell you, like it was, it's okay.
I'm bummed because I've heard both adaptations. There's 2 TV miniseries, and both are not great. And it's like, really, we can't nail The Stand. All right.
There's a comic book adaptation.
I started thinking of the Dark Tower comic adaptation. I think I read the first collection of that, and that was pretty good.
That was pretty good. That was Marvel. But Marvel also did The Stand, and The Stand comic isn't bad. But again, like it's a famous bowl of ideas. It's just like it's never. He didn't plot it. It's just and then, and that's what that book is.
I think one of the things that really stuck with me with Stand is the opening, like how the virus gets out.
So
it's just
good.
One of those classic Stephen King, like. This guy, you're following this guy, and all he's trying to do is escape, and he does, and it's the worst thing that happened to the entire planet. Like one safeguard doesn't work, and so this guy that is infected escapes.
Yep,
and infects the rest of the planet, and it's
amazing.
Like that shit is why Stephen King is the king.
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
That's not what this podcast is.
This
podcast is Superman. But Sal, where can the kids find what you're working on?
You can go to youtube.com/Comic Returns, which is my podcast channel, which has a lot of shows like this, or our main channel, youtube.com/Comic Pop, where we have a big show where me and my 2 friends break down a main story, like a big old comic book.
Check that out. Also, keep your peepers peeled for issue 2 of The Terminator whenever that drops.
Yes.
I was doing some great work over there, so check that out. You can find me at DJ Talks Trash every place that matters. I'm trying to post more on Blue Sky.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel like a lot's going on over there, though. It's
pretty. The reality is, like, the death of Twitter, you knew it was never going to, like, be... You can't break Twitter up and compete with it. Yeah. Twitter was a thing, and now it isn't. And like every other piece of media and social media, it will be compartmentalized. Like Blue Sky will never reach the level and size of Twitter.
Yeah.
But it will be enough for a handful of people. Like there's one like Kara or something like that, where it's like a Twitter just for artists.
Oh, interesting.
And it's like, okay, so it's over.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so I'm trying to do more stuff on Blue Sky. You guys are on my personal channel. Thank you for joining me. I'm doing some new shows over here. I got a new episode of Trash Talk coming out next week. Experimenting a little bit. We're going to talk about the election. Oh, man. And
God, good luck with that.
Trying to shake it up a little bit. That's the point of that show. Slash Pick, where I'm with Adam Lavick and we talk about slasher movies. We just did our previous episode was on Halloween. I think the next one is on the first Friday the 13th movie. Check that out. Nice. And if you want check out my podcast network, that's Only Stupid Answers. And if you want to watch shows like this, like Sal and I do Mutant Academy, that's exclusively on our Patreon, patreon.com/Only Stupid Answers. I want to thank everybody that joined us live, everybody that hopped into the super chat. Appreciate y'all. And we will see you next time. Bye, everybody.